Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pixley for President. I am, as usual, Jared Pixley. Uh, since we have a bunch of new subscribers, I just wanted to mention at the beginning in the description box below are the links to all my social media, including Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow me on any of those. There's also a link to my book available on Amazon, Pixley for President. There's also a donation link if you would like to donate to my campaign. A presidential campaign costs over $1 billion these days, so any little bit you can give me, $10 or $20, will make a big difference. Enough drops will fill the bucket. Before we begin this episode, I just want to mention a friend of mine confronted me about my refusal to play golf as president, trying to point out all the benefits of playing golf. She had pointed out that the active lifestyle helps people think better, and cited scientific papers on that effect. And I agree with her. As I told her, and I've seen that in my own life, when I have writer's block, I take a walk, and just getting the blood flowing helps stimulate new ideas. She also talked about how the lawyers play golf as a means of talking to people outside of the usual work environment. A more casual environment lets people lower their guard, and reach understandings. And I agree with that too. And I believe that you can do that outside of the golf course. There are plenty of casual environments that you could have those conversations. So it's just like someone brought it up to me, so I just want to share that. You know, while it's not something I mentioned in the video, it is an aspect that has been considered. I still believe that playing golf just costs you too much money. So, uh, getting into the meat of today's episode. As I've been campaigning, I've received multiple messages from people telling me that I should just drop out because I won't win. I've even had one guy post that he agrees with everything I said, but I can't win, so I should just quit now. Now, I'm not going to listen to those people. No, I'm happy that you think or I'm happy that you agree with what I say. That means that there are other people that think like me. But I'm not going to just quit because it's difficult. And that difficulty comes from the two-party system and the cost of the election. Now, I knew this was an uphill battle going in. In fact, it's an uphill battle just getting attention on YouTube. I feel like I'm fighting for viewers, and it's just not growing as fast as I'd like. So please, if you're watching this, share the videos. Help spread the word. But the system has grown up around two parties, and they're just trying to squeeze everyone else out. Why have multiple opponents when you can just limit yourself to one opponent? And that's, along with that, is the rising cost of the elections, and everything else. So, as I said, right now there are two parties. There have been two parties for most of the history of the country. When George Washington was elected, both times, he served 2 terms, there were no political parties. Now, today, there are the Democrats and the Republicans. But they have not always been there. When Hamilton and Madison organized the first parties, that was the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Then the Whigs came and went. And in 1850, we finally see the Democrats and the Republicans first appear. However, back then the Democrats were the right-wing group, and the Republicans were the lefts. Sometime after the Civil War, but before the Great Depression, there was the switch, and the Democrats became the left wing and the Republicans the right wing. I believed that I've heard, and I don't have any supporting evidence of it, but a lot of the right wingers, so at that time it would have been the Democrats, were upset with their party over an issue, and all went and joined the Republicans and turned the Republicans right wing. The Republicans, upset that this group had taken control of their party, left and reformed the Democrats as now the left-handed group. But like I said, that's just what I've heard. It might not be true. I can't verify it. Now, throughout all of this, there have been third parties. However, at their best, they never had more than 20% of the vote. Now, the two-party system has claimed the majority of the voter base. Yeah, everyone has signed up to be either Republican or Democrat, and a few people are the undecided. Well, the independents. Now, the two-party system has claimed a majority of the voter base and made elections so expensive that it's hard for other people to even run. In recent presidential elections, it has cost over $1 billion to run for president. There's no way that I will be able to earn that much. But I am also not going to be a pawn to corporations, and so I'm not accepting their money. The Democrats and Republicans have been gatekeeping the elections, making it virtually impossible for an independent to win. Ross Perot came close in 1992 and got about 19% of the popular vote. No one else since then has been as successful. Jill Stein has run a few times, and her best was just 1% of the vote. Now, if I can even beat Jill Stein, I will be happy. I would love to beat Ross Perot. I would love to win the election. That's why I'm even trying. Very seldom are third-party candidates invited to presidential debates. This makes people think that they aren't legitimate candidates. They're given less time on the national stage. They're just ignored. Thus, the election boils down to just two candidates, and you get to choose the lesser of two evils. Because of the cost, both have received millions of dollars in contributions from corporations. And during their term in office, they do what their corporate donors want so that they get more money in the next election. As I said, I don't want any corporate donors. I'm not going to do anything for them. The only people that I care about are the actual people, the citizens of this country. Now, that is not to say that citizens of other countries aren't people. They're just not my problem. I can't think of a good way to say this. Between the cost, being shut out of debates, and the lack of media coverage, not to mention that a large portion of the population is already just a slave to the party line. They vote Republican or Democrat without even knowing anything about the candidates, just because the party tells them to. It's nearly impossible for an independent to win. So why don't I just try to primary in one of the parties? Well, first, just to be honest, I'm far more Democrat than I am Republican. But I'm not fully sold on the Democratic Party. Aside from a lot of them being corporate sellouts and the do-nothing Democrats that are in Congress right now, not all the Democrats in Congress are do-nothings, just there's quite a few of them. On top of all that, I do have some conservative values. I'm a Christian and I have Christian values. Such as taking care of the sick, feeding the hungry, clothing the poor. Now, these are things that Democrats do. And I've always wondered why the Christian Party, the Republicans, are against doing the things that Christ taught. Now, I'm also conservative in a few other ways. For example, I think that we should fix things so that American people can survive on just one income. I would like the country to go back to what it I can't say what it used. Yeah, so to what it used to be. With the traditional wife that stays home, cleans, cooks. Now, I'm also a realist, and I understand that these dynamics do not work in every household. And some couples, the woman is the better breadwinner, and you can have a stay-at-home dad. And I'm fine with that. Yeah, I would just, given the choice, if I was married, I would like to have the traditional wife. And I'd like to create the country so that we can have that again. We can have that option again. I don't want to force my beliefs on anyone else. I think everyone has the right to choose how they live. So, getting a little off the point, but now looking at the front runners for the Democratic Party, we have Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is pulling in third place, I believe. And while there has been a press release from her office that she is actually not seeking the presidential nomination, things could change. But I have problems with both Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. Gavin Newsom, as governor of California, has done a decent job. He's earned a lot of attention by standing up to Trump, especially with when the ICE mass ICE activity in California at the start of this term. But when you look at his history as governor, you can see that he's not good on all the issues. In 2022, he walked back his support for universal health care. He did not support CalCare, which is California's plan for single-payer insurance. In 2023, he vetoed a bill to cap the copay for insulin. He also vetoed a bill to regulate pharmacy benefit managers. Now, it's speculated that all of this was done because some of his big donors were insurance companies, and he's putting their interests before those of his constituents. He also has a mixed history on fighting homelessness, threatening to cut off funds to communities that did not fix their homeless problem, and vetoing several bills aimed at reducing homelessness by providing them with housing, such as one that would convert unused state land into affordable housing. Kamala Harris is also a decent candidate, but she has her issues too. As Attorney General of California, she said she would fight crime in her state, but then turned a blind eye to police brutality. A police officer had shot and killed two men a few months apart. The mayor had begged for investigation from her office, but Harris never looked into it. The city then had to pay out $200,000 to the family of one of the enslaved men over his wrongful death. That man had been unarmed at the time the officer shot him. And after that, the officer went on to shoot and kill more people in the line of duty. Needlessly shoot and kill more people, to be correct. And those were the two Democratic frontrunners. On the other side, you have J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, who are the frontrunners to be the Republican nominee. And I'm sure you can guess I have a lot of problems with those two that I'm just not going to waste my time getting into. Now, I believe that we need more candidates so that you can find one that you fully believe in, not just one that you 75% agree with. And just looking at the two Democrats, do you want the one that's tough on crime, or do you want the one that will give you health care? Why can't we have someone like me who will offer both? I'm not the only one who thinks that the two-party system is a bad idea. In his farewell address in 1796, George Washington warned about loyalty to the party instead of loyalty to the nation. When Americans vote according to party loyalty rather than the common interest of the nation, Washington feared it would foster a spirit of revenge and enable a rise of cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men who would usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterward the very engines which have lifted them to unjust domination. I wonder if we have seen any of that happening today. So, in summary, I think people should investigate third parties, or just start voting for the candidates that best represent them instead of following the party's column on the ballot. Once that happens, perhaps we'll get more candidates that will represent the will of the people instead of those that just follow the will of the party line. As a reminder, I promise to represent the people, not a party and not corporations. I will represent the people and provide them with what they need and what they want. And if you watch my other videos, you can see exactly what it is that I'm offering. Especially my two-part, possibly three-part, as I'm still writing it, what I will specifically do as president. I thank you all for joining me this week. Remember, links in the description below. If you can spare a few bucks, please help support my campaign. Help me grow my audience. Please like, share, and subscribe. That would help me out a lot as well. Have a wonderful day, and see you again next week.